Yes, so the collaboration with XLR was an excellent one. We conducted a Power BI workshop with Advanced Excel over a span of 3 days. The workshop was almost 12 hours long in total. Mr. Karthik, who was an amazing trainer, helped the students understand the concepts deeply. I am sure that the students will be able to apply these concepts in their careers as well as their daily lives.
The trainer, Mr. Karthik, was an excellent person where he explained in very detailed manner on how to give great insights using very complex data sets.
So it was a machine learning workshop. We learned a lot from the course and it was a great experience attending the workshop.
The trainer was very helpful. He had a hands-on approach with his teaching and it was fabulous.
This was a great experience for me. So I would absolutely love it if XLR and its team would come again to our campus and conduct more events like this.
It was a great course and it started from basics and took me to a great extent.
The experience of the workshop was really nice. The feedback from all the students was positive. They understood the concept. The workshop was also practical based with some questions. The experience with XLR was very smooth. They helped us in conducting the workshop smoothly right from the booking of the vendor and deciding the course till the distribution of certificates. In overall, this workshop was a success during our Technical Fest Atmos, and I thank XLR for being a part of it.
very much interested in learning digital marketing course for a very long period of time, but I don't get a proper platform. So later for my college, I get to know about XLR and I enrolled in XLR course. It was really good experience. Our course has been taken by Mayur sir, and he was very good teacher. He not only focusing on theory part, his and it was in total very good experience. I get so much of knowledge. Here they're not only focusing on study, they're also conducting different exams to test our knowledge, and as we are giving the exam, so to appreciate our work, they give certificates for the toppers, and along with the certificate they give hampers. Thank you, XLR.
Recently, I was searching for digital marketing courses online in Google, and I came across XLR, and I attended a digital marketing course which was for 15 days. My mentor Mayur helped me for attending these classes. So he is a very informative and helpful guy. In the course end, there is a exam which I topped, so I came to the XLR office in Bengaluru. This digital marketing course has helped my career and my skills to develop, and the certificate has helped my company to join. Thank you, XLR.
I came to know about this course from my college. Actually, for learning platform, this is very nice, and I learned from here ChatGPT and AI from online. Vikas is teaching for me for AI generative and ChatGPT. We are using this technology in more. And after finishing the courses, I came from for collecting the certificate. I seen the classrooms and faculties. Classroom is very nice. After the completion of exam, they will give gift and certificates. Thank you, XLR, for giving these courses. I learned a lot from this. I gained the more knowledge from here, and thank you for XLR for teaching us.
Hello guys, I'm Vikram Mahajan and I'm studying in Swami Vivekananda Institute of Technology College, and I came across a training program which was mobile app development using Flutter, which was given to us by XLR Solutions. I came across this program through my college faculty, who told us about this program, that it is a very good course and you should enroll in this course. So I enrolled in this course, and initially I felt really good about this course because they started everything from a very basic point of view, that even if someone who doesn't know anything about Flutter or anything about mobile app development can also learn the same way the ones who know about it are learning. So no student was left behind and everyone was given equal attention. All the doubts throughout the course were cleared. And if we had any questions also, we were like, the trainer was also ready to stay for a longer time than it was scheduled, even for the sake of doubts. So that shows how important the students are to them. So it was a really good experience with XLR's program, and by the end of the training program, I was able to develop my own application. And through the development also, there was another point. Yeah, so our sir taught us about how we can connect our own mobile phone to our laptop and write code in our laptop, and you can see the output in your phone, which was really creative and interesting for me. I felt really good about that. So in the end, I developed my own mobile application. I showed it to my mother, I showed it to my friends. I felt really good about it. So I would really suggest XLR. I would recommend it to all my friends to take courses from here, as they focus on the children, focus on the students, and they focus on what's necessary, that is the students' doubts gets cleared and everything else. So today I came down to the XLR office to collect my certificate. So I got to know about what other courses XLR is offering. It included data analysis, data analyst, social media marketing, and full stack Java, and many more courses which were interesting, and they gave us an insight of how everything happens, and they take you through the course from the starting of the course to the end, and what next, that is placements as well. How you should be going into the interviews and how you should be approaching to companies, your resume building, and there were so many things which XLR is going to help you in, and they are ready to give you all the knowledge required even if you are a beginner. So I really felt good about this visit, and I would really recommend XLR to everyone who's listening to this, and also to all my friends, that I had a very good experience with XLR, and I would suggest you to experience the same. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Satish and I am from Swami Vivekananda Institute of Technology. I am here to share my experience about XLR program. I took part in the XLR program that was conducted in the last month about the mobile app development using Flutter. What I liked the most about this session was the trainer started from the scratch. That means even the beginner who don't know about the basics of the program,
Hello. Yeah, good afternoon all. So we'll move to the session. So Bala, you can take up the session.
Yeah, Chandana. Yep.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. So, the next module that we can try to discuss about the database. So, yesterday we tried to review on storage services. Even the database is one kind of an aspect. Let's try to understand. Okay. Any doubts from the previous session in the meanwhile? Any doubts for yesterday's session? Any queries for the previous session before we proceed? Any doubts? All right. So let's start up with a module of database here. What is a database? Usually we try to see any application nowadays, or any website, or any software. whatever the access, whatever the data that we are trying to have it integrated, that is going to store somewhere, right? So there is huge, massive, unlimited of data for, where we are trying to use it over the online for any application that we are trying to access. So the data has to be stored at some place, correct? So storing the data is something, different aspect, but how do you try to retrieve that massive amount of data? So how do you try to manage? And when you want to retrieve it, how do you want to search? Okay, that's an important aspect. So what is a database? By definition, if you see, a database is nothing but a organized collection of a data. A database, it's nothing but an organized collection of a data so that it can be easily accessed and managed. That means usually by the definition, we are calling a database is a collection of data stored in a computer system. That means in general like a physical storage, or it can be any server, right? So it's kind of a data stored in kind of a computer system, or it can be a physical server devices, and it's usually controlled by a database management system. We are calling that as DBMS. We are trying to store the data in a computer system which is controlled by DBMS softwares. We have a software which is trying to manage that, the help of DBMS software management system. So how this data will be stored? So this data, it will be stored and can be organized into a tables, rows, columns, and index it to make it easier to find the relevant information. Okay. So we are trying to have the data inside this particular database system. We are trying to access it via, and the view is something which will be usually in the form of tables, rows, columns. Okay. So if I try to show you, let me show that. Yeah, just a moment, guys. Yeah. So you can see this is how the information inside this database table that will be looked in the format of rows and the columns. Okay. You can see that. For example, the information about particular users here, like it can be employee data or it can be user data, and all that information that has been in the format of the names, right? Like a first name, last name, address lines, all that information. So it's not easy to maintain all the data information into a normal storage, right? With the help of DBMS softwares, database management softwares. So what actually, how it is going to benefit? It will be easy to find out the relevant information and trying to retrieve the information and organize the data into a proper format. Okay. So there are some softwares which is trying to do this job for an easy organizing. Okay. That's how it will be working on. So basically, the data is common databases in modeled in the form of tables and the columns here, which will be making, querying and processing efficiently. Querying means you can try to retrieve the data with the help of a single, queries, like a single format queries, and you can try to pull that information about, terabytes of a database and the petabytes of a database. From that high level of storage, you're trying to retrieve the information with the help of a query based technology. Okay. So you people might have heard about structured query language. That is nothing but an SQL, right? So SQL query languages, which are most commonly used for data querying and writing as well. You might have heard about SQL queries, which is the query language which we are trying to write it out like a simple queries, and then we are trying to execute over the software and trying to retrieve the data which has been stored inside the database. Okay. So the database is an essential part in every organizations of the companies, and we do have encountered several activities that involve our interaction with databases. Okay. So for example, if you are trying to access any application like a random website, you are trying to access some application of the e-commerce website like amazon.com or a Flipkart or any e-commerce website, you are trying to access any product. So the product details and the information, the cost, the availability, this is all these things are actually visible over the front end web page. Now, how are you trying to see that? Because the backend database is trying to process that and trying to give you that information. For example, you are trying to book a train ticket over the IRCTC website. Now, on this date, the tickets which are available into which class and the which berth and the location and the availability of that particular time. So everything, the data being pulled from the backend databases, there will be kind of a query based that is trying to happen. The data is stored in the form of tables, right? Or the columns, and you can try to retrieve the data, or it can be a railway, or it can be a, college data, or the information related to the, e-commerce websites or the groceries. Okay. So whatever, like, in day-to-day scenarios, like, if you try to go for, any kind of stores like a schools or the grocery shops or any kind of business, retail shops. So there used to be, data that has to be stored, right? So the data has to be stored at some point. So during all these situations, we need to store large amount of data into one place and have to fetch that data easily so that it can be easily accessed and we can try to organize in a proper way. Okay. So what kind of an applications that we try to have it use it? For example, any company information, the account information, the manufacturing, banking, finance, transactions in the telecommunications. So all this data that is being stored in the format of tables consist of rows and the columns, and it is indexed. The data is being indexed so that data can be updated from the tables and it can be fetched, expanded, and also if you want to modify and delete it, we can do that. Okay. So there are different types of databases currently, and yeah, it got disconnected. Let me share my screen. Yeah. So there are two different types of databases which we are trying to primarily focus on. That is nothing but relational database and non-relational database. Okay. What is a relational database? A relational database, which is something, it is set up of a tables with the data that fits into particular category. Okay. So in the relational database, what actually happened, it allows us to create, delete, and update a relational database, the data which is stored here. Okay. So the data which has been stored inside this RDS relational database retrieves the data in a tabular format, organized in the form of rows and the columns. Okay. It is a similar subset of the main database system. So let's try to see what kind of an example we have is something called Microsoft SQL, Oracle database, and the MySQL. We will try to see and do a lab session for this particular database. We have one more in the non-relational database. Non-relational database is nothing but NoSQL database, which will be trying to store unstructured data. In relational database, we are trying to have data stored in a structured basis. In the non-relational, we are trying to store the data in unstructured data. Okay. So here the examples are MongoDB, Cassandra, and Redis. So how do you try to deploy the database? We just need to understand the database has to be deployed by considering the factor of scalability. So that means how much storage or the resources that can be scaled up and down based on the requirement. Because there could be a chances of huge data that can be, in place, which has to be completely configured, right? Which requires a high resources, whether it's a cloud or on-premise. Now the scalability is one factor. That means whenever the data storage that has to be needed more, it has to be scaled upside. It has to be scaled. So we need that much of a visibility, correct? So here the scalability should be important factor in the cloud environment. The other thing we have to consider is total storage requirements. Total storage requirements. That means how much storage we need and how much data that you're trying to have it integrated application. So you should have an idea. And what kind of an objects, what kind of a storage object types? Is it a structured data or unstructured data? What are the different types of objects? So this kind of a thing we have to have an idea before we deploy the database system. And the durability, for how much duration the data has to be persistent and how long you want to keep it. Even that is also one kind of a factor which will be consideration under the database deployment. Okay. So let's try to discuss about relational database here. So let's discuss about relational database. What is relational database? As I've said, a relational database, it's something which is trying to provide us the option of configuration of data into tables, rows, and the columns. So here the data must be stored in the form of tabular form so that it can be easily fetched, managed, organized in the form of rows and columns, as I've shown you the picture just before. Okay. So each row of the table is called record. Okay. As I've shown here, each row, the rows and the columns, right? Each row in the table is called as a record or a tuple. So collection of these records is known as the cardinality of the table. And also we have a columns. And here attributes. So collection of such columns is the called the arity of the table. Okay, so we need to understand this. So we are trying to have this database and whatever the attributes that we are trying to define. For example, in the first name, it is a string value. We are giving the alphabet values here. In the last name, it's an also string or the characters value. We have to supply characters values. And if you get the postal code, we should have supplied only the numbers here. Only this to be input. Only that data to be inputted here. Okay, we need to understand the relational of relational database. Its ease of use and provides a reduced data storage. The most common language we are trying to use it is nothing but structured query language or SQL. Structured query language or SQL. So SQL is a software like providing a structured query language where we can try to retrieve the data, manage the data, and organize the data inside this DBMS. So relational database is ideal when we require a strict schema rules. So when we want to store the complete structured data in the organized way and where we need a strict schema rules, during those times we can try to use this relational database. And it is ideal when you don't need an extreme read or write. It means the performance can be impacted because it is trying to perform some tabular format organizational software mechanism where the data will be completely stored and trying to retrieve and trying to process when we want to deploy, right? So it doesn't require extreme performance, but you want the data to be fetched in a proper organized way. Okay. And what we can see the other feature being an RDBMS, it can be the best lowest effort solution. RDBMS can be the best lowest effort solution. So for example, how this RDBMS database will be there. Like a RDBMS full form is nothing but relational database management system. Okay. So for example, there is a table, there is a student who consist of some data like a roll number, name, section, and the department, right? So the attributes like a roll number, name, and the sections and the department, it cannot be same, correct? So for the roll number section, we need to supply only the numbers. For the name section, we have to supply only the character values. Even the section and the department, we have to supply the character values. So it cannot be same. That means whatever the attributes we are trying to define, we need to enter that data only. Okay. So if you try another example, there is an application website, e-commerce website, a user who is trying to access the application over the internet. Okay. And when he is trying to open that browser and trying to access the application, and he want to see the information in Amazon. For example, he want to see the information about particular invoice and the price and the product status and the total amount and everything. When he tried to click on that option, there is a backend SQL query operation is being performed. The request is going to the backend database. It is trying to retrieve the information from the backend invoice table. When the same user is trying to click on some product, the information about the product will be there, the amount, the price, description, the image, date and time, status, all the information will be there in the backend database table. And the same user, when he click on some customer profile account, he will be able to choose all the information, like he can modify, he can read the information, first name, last name, age, gender, email ID, invoice ID, all that information will be in place. Like even the same order table. You can see the backend database, it is trying to maintain all the relevant details, what the application has been given access to the users. So the front end web page, what you see, that is connected to the backend database server. This is how I can try to view the data. Are we understanding? Any doubts on this? Any doubts? Any doubts still here? So people can ask in terms of whatever discussed. Anyone in the meanwhile? All right. So if you see by the definition, even in the an Amazon relational database system, it's a fully managed relational database service. All right. So wait a second, it just got this. Yeah. So this database, the relational database, we will be trying to have a practice. I mean, I'll just show you the lab, how this will be working and how are we trying to create the relational database. And we will try to see how these SQL queries are actually being, executed to retrieve the data and to create some, tables and trying to manage the data and view the information. And how are we trying to access through a any kind of a virtual machine. Like for example, you can try to have this database installed in Linux server or the Windows server. Okay, let's try to see how it is going to work out. So I'll show you a demo of the lab, how it's gonna work. Let me show that. Let me log in. So I'm just opening the console. Yeah, someone have a question? Who is that? If you have a question, you can type in the chat. It's fine. For example, I'm opening the RDS. I'm opening this RDS here. So this is a screen, the console, how the database looks like. Okay. So I'm just clicking on this database here. Create database. So here there are different types, right? As I've told you, standard, create, Aurora. You can see the different types of relational database which supports with SQL compatibility. That is, you can see Aurora is a Amazon proprietary software, database software application. And we have third-party softwares like MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB, the Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, IBM DB2. These are all the supported engines that is trying to provide to us by AWS. So you might have a doubt how this software being directly available on the cloud. If you see here, there are different types of databases like completely on-premise environment database. That means if you are trying to have your own database deployed in the physical data center, we are calling that as a hosted database on-premise. So where you will try to manage the power, the physical servers, the connections, the racks and the stack servers, server maintenance, OS installations, patches, database software installation, and database backup, the maintenance, the scalability, application, everything you are responsible. That means you will manage. We are calling that as a hosted database on-premise. When we are trying to look at hosted database in Amazon EC2, we do have the physical aspects like a power, rack, server maintenance, OS installations, everything will be from the physical data center that is managed by the cloud vendor. And what you manage is OS patches. That means if any kind of an upgrades or the software installations, database software installation, database software patches, database backups, high availability, scalings, and app optimization. So 50% of aspects you need to manage. The benefit of using managed AWS database services, that is hosted database in managed AWS, is something all the backend infrastructure is completely managed by the cloud vendor. That means AWS will try to manage what you manage. Simply you will try to have an option to, deploy the database directly here. Everything will be the backend maintenance, installation, and the scalability, and all the backend physical hardware aspects will be managed completely by the cloud vendor. This is the one such kind of an option, like a hosted database, hosted managed database in the cloud that is being available. Okay. So we are trying to see, we'll try to show you if how this database can be deployed quick. And I'll show you a demo of how these SQL queries can be executed. Okay. So the most common and mostly widely used, you might heard about MySQL, right? So I'm selecting the MySQL here. MySQL version engines here, if you can see, this has been defined. This is for production environment, which is having a higher performance like a development or testing environment, or the free tier. Free tier means it is, for the 12 months, there are like a limitation where you can try to practice this database under the free tier account. So I'm selecting the free tier account. So that means this database doesn't, available into a multiple backup availability zones. Okay. It is just for a testing application and gaining hands-on experience. That's it. All right. So I'm selecting this. I'm setting the username and the password for this database configuration. I've set it out. So what is the configuration for the database server that you would like to deploy? So I do have an option for either tt.micro or T4G. So under the free tier account, I have option for tt.micro. I'm selecting this so that I'll get a server that can be deployed for 2 core CPU and 1 GB RAM. So I'm selecting this. The database server configuration I'm defining as 2 core CPU and the 1 GB RAM. And the storage type, general purpose SSD2, which is trying to provide the storage for this database server, like 20 GB. and I'm launching in a network. The created network under which I've created, I should have a public access. Choose existing, this is fine. Availability zone, usually we can try to have this database available across different availability zone data centers. Okay, like I'm in the Oregon region here. So under this region, I'm trying to have my database deployment across, the available zones inside this location. So I can try to choose that. If doesn't require, you can click on no preference. As we are testing it, I'm just not selecting anything. And click on create database. Let's see. I'm creating a database in the cloud now. So let's see how it can be used. It just takes some time. Click on close. So it is being deployed. It just takes few minutes to launch. So I'm just waiting for it to create it. All right, I see it has been created. Let's try to observe now. So if you can see here, the status being in the backup status here. So I'm just refreshing here. Let's have it. Status should be available. So if you see, the database is in the available status now, and it has been created under US-West-2A. This is a T3.micro server. That means 2 core CPU and 1 GB RAM. It is having a 20 GB of a storage, which has been launched under my network that has been created, right? So once I'll try to open it, you can see the current CPU utilization is 4.07%. There are no currently any active connections, and all the network information. This is the endpoint that has been created for this database with the port number 3306. Okay, that is going to be connected here. So what are we doing? So this database, I'm trying to connect with the Linux server. Okay, let me try to open this. Open link in new tab. I'll just try to connect the server. So this server is acting as a web application server that is being connected to the backend database. I'm trying to connect the server to the database, and we'll try to have the data entered. What I'll do here, let me launch a sample server quick. I'm launching a Ubuntu server. So I'm just selecting Ubuntu Linux machine. So T2.micro key pair I'm selecting as AWS. Just get loading. I'm selecting the key pair, and the networking settings, I'm trying to go with the default. So we need to understand one concept that the database, whatever the network that I try to launch here, okay, whatever the network which I'm trying to launch, the server also should also have to be on the same network, so that these two resources have to communicate each other. Okay. Now I'm trying to launch under the default VPC, and as I have required for the internet access, I'm selecting on the public network. So select the existing security group. Even the security group, you can see this is a firewall. I've tried to select a default security group which has been created. I'm trying to select the firewall here. Default. I'm just doing this. Now it is having 8 GB of storage. So this is a web application server. It can be a web or application server. I'm clicking on launch instance. Now the server is getting launched. Let's see. Now our main aim is to connect this server to this database, be implemented with the help of SQL queries. Okay. And we can create tables, columns, and the different information. I'll just try to show you what are the different So the server got launched successfully. Let me see this. Let me connect this. So I'm connecting through online. It should have a public access. Let me click on connect. So this is a Ubuntu Linux machine, what you are seeing on the screen now. So the first command I would try to do is sudo su. Okay. So we need to install the database with the help of commands. Let me check that. Okay. So the first command here should be sudo apt update, which will try to install the library files for this particular Ubuntu machine. So you can try to retrieve. It is trying to prepare that. Getting installed. Now, these are like Linux commands I'm trying to enter, okay? Sudo apt -get install mysql. It is installing MySQL software version. Yep. So now it has been created. Let's try to have the creation for SQL service that has to be started. Okay. The software has been installed. So the command should be sudo service mysql hyphen start. Oh, it should be start. I'm trying to start the SQL service here. It started. To see the status of that particular service, I can click on status. Now the service is into running state. All right. This should be fine till here. So I want to connect the database from, this database from my server. Let me try to type MySQL space hyphen h space. I have to copy this endpoint to connect that. I'm just pasting the endpoint here. Space hyphen minus p. The port number that has to be connected under 3306. I'm just to give that number over here, 3306 space hyphen u. The username is admin hyphen p. It should ask for the password. Okay, I think I've given double MySQL. Should be single. It is asking for the password. Now, if you see, once I try to enter the username and password which I've created, welcome to the MySQL SQL version 8039. And it has tried to launch an SQL server for me. It is trying to show me the prompt. Okay, if you see this clearly. Okay, so I have successfully connected to the server from my end. So that means I'm connected to the database software from my Linux EC2 server. Let's try to create a database and see what are all the options that we can try to perform directly here. Okay. So for example, I'll create a database with a sample command. Create database. For example, DemoDB. I'm creating a database called with the name of DemoDB here. Okay. A query has been executed. This is an SQL query. Even if you want to see the different types of SQL queries, you can type SQL queries. We have some different website like W3 schools and Greeks. You just try to have it, type it, and just paste. You can see this. The information is getting displayed. So there are different types of SQL queries for creating database, and you can try to learn as well. So these queries you can try to execute directly from here. I'm connecting. For example, I am just trying to create a database that has been done. Now I want to create some sample database. I mean the table. So whatever the table you can create, it's fine. Like a college information, employee table, or any product information or the order information, whatever the table you wish, you can try to create with the help of queries here. So for that, I'll use a database here, use demo. So I'm creating a table here. Create table space persons. So I just want to create a table called the persons, which he should have information about the person ID, the last name, the first name, the address of the person of the or the city. These are the basic information I want to create a table. So I'll try to define here person ID, which should be an integer value, comma, last name. It should be a character values. So the characters can be, in, maximum of 255 characters. And first name, it is also character, which is having 255 values, comma, city is also character. which is also having 255 values. Okay. So I'll close this table, semicolon. You can see I'm using a create command, create SQL query to create the table here. The query got executed. If I want to see if this table is created or not, I can use the select query. Select star from which table? The persons table. Persons. So it is saying that empty set. That means there is no data here because I just created attributes. I didn't enter any data inside this data, right? For that, which command we can use? We can use a insert command. We can use the insert command here. So SQL insert into, all right? Then I can type insert into which table? The persons. Now I'll type person ID, comma last name, comma first name. Mm, okay, person ID. This number is wrong. Person ID, last name, first name, comma city, space, which values I have to supply here. So the person ID is something, random name, number, comma. The last name should be some different values, John. The first name I'm giving something, different information here, and the city. So I'm just, for the characters, I have to use a open and close quotation, like a single quotation. Now I'm trying to close the bracket and semicolon and enter. So the data has been inserted into this table. Now I'll use the select query to see the data. If you see, an SQL table has been created with some data entered, like a person ID 132, the John, the first name is Vic, the city is Norway. I have to, if I want to include more data, for example, search. Select star. I'm just trying to have more data inserted. It is not trying to take the second line. There is something we missed it. Okay, we missed a additional comma here. You can see the closing quotation. That's what is not accepting. Now it should take it. And if I try to have more data here, see, I'm trying to insert more data. So I'll use the select query, select star from persons. You can see an SQL table that has been created. The attributes that has been given here are person ID, the last name, the first name, and the city. And I'm trying to have a data with different IDs and the information about the names, and the data has been city. Are we understanding how I'm trying to create with the help of sample SQL queries here? Everyone? Yes or no? Are we understanding? I hope this is interesting. Okay. So if I want to update any value, for example, I want to modify some value within this table. Okay. I can try to use an update command. Okay. We have tried to see creating table, insert table, select a query, and the database creation, right? If you want to update any value inside this particular database table, you can use the update query. Update. I can use the persons table. Space. Set. First name. Equal to, I just want to change the first name of this particular fourth ID, that is Sani. I want to change it to rock, where person ID equal to 345. So what I want to do, I want to use, update the table data that this first name has to be changed with the name of rock, that has to be replaced with a person ID equal to 345. Okay, let me see if that is going to work. I think two rows has been matched. Oh, 345. I think there are two IDs, right? So it will try to change the last name for these two IDs. That means William and Sani. Let me show you that. You can see this first name has been changed, and this first name is also has been changed. You're seeing my screen. If I want to change only specific to this Tom only, or else I want to give a different name, then I can try to change the attribute where last name equal to Tom. First name equal to Statham, where okay. Now I think it should work. So you can see now everything has been changed. Though this has been changed and this has been changed with the help of update queries. So in this way, I can use the different queries to have my data modified with the help of SQL queries. So if I want to delete the table, then I can use delete from persons table. So my data table has been deleted now. See, it is completely empty. If I want to delete complete database, can use the demo drop DB. Okay, drop database. That means I'm trying to delete the entire database. That means there is no database anymore. Okay, so I can try to administrate in this way. See, it's not coming. Demo DB. So it is done. So the database has been deleted and the table has been deleted. Okay. So as I'm done with this, I'll just try to terminate the server. We cannot keep it under the free tier, so I'm deleting this. And I also try to delete the database as I'm done with the work because it's a free tier account. Okay. I don't need any snapshot. I don't need any backup. I'm deleting this database from mine. I acknowledge on deleting this. Any doubts till here? Anyone? You people are able to understand the database, right? It's deleting. It just take few minutes to have it deleted because the database is trying to be created inside the cloud environment. In the meanwhile, others can ask any doubts. Aurora is also similar kind of an SQL. It works under the same technology. That's just kind of a proprietary tool. That's it. Proprietary tool from Amazon. Okay. It works like a same concept, like what you see here SQLite. The Aurora is also same thing exactly. Nothing more. See, this is an Aurora. It's a proprietary SQL service that is being offered by Amazon. So even Aurora is a relational database. All the relational database will work with the same technology, that is nothing but an SQL. Okay. So it is a relational database, combines the speed and reliability of high-end commercial database with the simplicity and cost effectiveness of open source database. So on what basis you need to select the database? For example, depending on the type of data you upload or the use as for the project. For example, it's a school or it's a college or it's kind of a company where you want to store the employee data or the customer data, where it has a first name, last name, and the in-depth details. The data has to be completely organized. The data has to be completely in an organized format and in a structured format. Then you need to use a relational database. If you want to have the data that has to be completely organized and you want to retrieve and trying to have that, so you need to use that relational database. That means storing the structured data. Structured data means it has to be properly organized in the form of tabular forms, columns, in a sequential orders, right? For that reason, you need to use, for the structured data storage, you need to use relational database. There is non-relational database. Why, when we try to choose the non-relational database, when there is a high frequency of a data, like a huge data, which doesn't require to be completely organized. It can be unstructured data. The data can be in any form, the unstructured data, and it doesn't need to be properly organized in the form of tables, columns, and something. It's not required. It don't require any complex queries. It don't require any schema restrictions or SQL, queries like complex joins. Like for example, you are trying to play games and you are trying to have your data, like you want to have a virtual chats and the live dashboard, like a scores, live scores, and media information, e-commerce website, social media applications, dating applications, these kind of a dynamic web applications where the data is important, where you need to store, but not in the completely unstructured. Okay, it doesn't need to be organized. For storing that data, we can use non-relational database. Okay. So based on the pricing, based on the features, you need to select the right database. So all the third-party tools also being available within the cloud, like Amazon Aurora, MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle DB, IBM. These are the different database available, right? Based on the project requirement, you can try to use that, like a pricing and the features, the scalability. Okay. Any other queries? You can ask anything related. Okay. All right, let's try to see other topic that is for DNS. I mean Route 53. Okay, let's try to see an overview on that as well. We have a DNS service within the cloud. Let's try to see how it's going to work out. Okay, I'll show you it. Let me check if my database got deleted in the meanwhile. Yeah, successfully database has been deleted. Okay, I think it should be good. I'm deleting the server because it doesn't need to be chargeable. So I'm trying to delete this. So the next topic is Route 53. So the DNS works with the concept of, you know, having a domain name translation. Okay, so DNS's full form is nothing but a domain name service, and it provides a directory of domain names and translate them to IP addresses. Okay. So if you see, when you are trying to access some website from your system, like www.amazon.com or any other kind of a website like a google.com, right? So the website request is going to the backend server, and the backend server is assigned with an IP address. So conversion of the domain, the IP address. Okay, the conversion of domain to the IP address, that is nothing but domain name translation. So DNS, it will try to translate the domain name to the IP address so that it is trying to retrieve the required information in the background and trying to display in the front end web page. Okay, how it is possible? From the client computer, when you can see here, the client computer is trying to access the data, and the request is trying to, like kind of a website, the request is going to the local DNS server first. If there is information in that local DNS server, then the request is going to the main root DNS server. Okay. So if there is no information about that IP address related to this domain, for example, www.amazon.com, if there is no information in the root DNS server, the query based search will go to the top level domains, like a TLDs we are calling as. And then if the request is, not available in this TLDs, then it will try to go to the main DNS server. So in the background, there is query based search which is happening. In the background, there is a query based search which is happening that is trying to have the information and fetched in the background. Okay, that is how it is going to work out, like a iterative and recursive query. If there is information in the local DNS server, it will try to give back the computer, like the whatever the computer we are trying to access the website, it will try to throw you that information. Okay. So you can see the DNS records how it will work from the client. The request is usually going to the resolver, the first resolver, like when it is trying to find that domain IP address. If that is not there, it will go to the root DNS server. If it is not available here, it will try to go to the top level domain server, or else it will try to search the information from the main top level domain. Okay. So this is nothing but a DNS lookup and the web page query. We are calling as DNS lookup and the web page query. You can see example.com or the website.com. The request is trying to find out to the relevant DNS server and get back to with the required information. So simply if you're trying to access any website, how are you trying to get the response there? The response you are trying to get based on the search that is happening in the over the internet through the DNS server. Okay. So you can see this example here. A user who is trying to access some website and the request is going to the local DNS and trying to vice versa and finding the required DNS, information from the background search, right? So what is this top level domains? Usually the search is based inside the DNS. Here you can see when I'm trying to access www.google.com, correct? So the request, it is trying to .com means the database will be there for the top level domains. For the .com, the request is going for the .com. It will try to find the information in this top level domains. If it is .net here, if it is .io here, if it is .org here, you can see there are top level domains which will be useful, correct? That is trying to find the required information from that background, TLDs, the top level domains, and fetch that information and give you the Google website directly in the front end. Okay. So such kind of a DNS service being offered by Route 53. And this Route 53 service, which is trying to provide your domain name service concept, and this DNS that can be assigned to the EC2 servers, load balancer, and S3 buckets as well. Okay. So the DNS, the Route 53, if you try to see the features here, it is highly available and reliable. It is built and distributed across AWS infrastructure, integrated with AWS, highly scalable and cost effective as well. Okay. And integrated with AWS means it can try to have it integrated with the different services within the cloud. And it is highly available across all the availability zones. It can try to scale up as per the requirement. Also, it is very much cost effective. Okay. So AWS Route 53, it's an authoritative domain name service which works with DNS concept and it provides a health checking service. It is highly available and scalable. It also offers the tools that provide flexible, high performance, and high available architecture on AWS. Okay. So these are the different records that get supported within this Route 53. I'll try to show you how these records are going to work out. Okay. And let me open this. Let's see the service of Route 53 within the cloud. This is a Route 53. Let me open this. So this is a domain name service where you can try to manage the DNS and you can try to register the domain as well. What is domain registration? If you see here, whenever you want to deploy a host of a static website, or I mean, not static, I can say dynamic websites. If you want to have a website that you want to deploy, for example, you need to purchase the websites, right? For example, you have some college. If the college also should have a website, and if it is XLR, even XLR should have a domain. You know, if there is a big companies, for example, Wipro.com, even that company has to purchase a domain, right? These domains are actually chargeable. You need to purchase that. You can see Wipro.com is not available because this domain is already being purchased by the Wipro company, so it's not available. The alternate websites that are actually available, you can see Wipro.tv, WiproConstruction.com. Like I'm trying to use a sample one, Wipro.ninja. So you need to pay something like $30 per year. It's kind of an availability that you can try to have standard prices. You can see Wipro.ac, Wipro.academy, .agency, Air Force, Aparts, Associates. These are the particular amounts that you need to pay and purchase this domain. So such kind of purchase facility that's being available here as well within the cloud environment. Okay. So for example, XLR, this institute, if I even have to purchase this, they have already purchased this domain. So I cannot try to purchase this, right? The domains are actually the other available domains are which are actually available here, so that which we can try to use it. Okay. So this is one kind of a registration. So usually I should have a domain which is already purchased. I mean, there are different cloud vendor. I mean, the domain providers which are actually available in the third party. like, domains, name, purchase. When I'm trying to do this, there are different third-party vendors, like a GoDaddy, it's a famous one, who will try to supply the domains for you. You can see. Like GoDaddy, Hostinger, Namecheap, and the Big Rock, domain.com. These are different third-party vendors who are trying to supply the domains and we can try to purchase them. I already purchased a domain for a practice purpose. I'll just show you how it looks like. So we will try to test it out. Okay. I should log in. Let me check. You should have this. I'm logging in, so I'm just trying to have an account. Let me show that quick. So this is how the console for third-party vendors, where we can try to purchase the domains and trying to register. I already have a domain, so I'll just try to open my account and let's see. See, I have a domain called brightorg.in. What I'll try to do, I'll have this domain that can be created over the cloud. Okay. I'll just try to create, like I'm trying to have a sample website deployment. Like I have already domain, right? I just want to deploy in the cloud as well. Right. Okay. I'm creating some domain here. The hosted zone is used for. It's a public hosted. I'm creating a hosted zone in the cloud. You can see when I'm trying to create a hosted zone, it has been created as NS record and SO record. NS is nothing but a name server record that is relevant to this particular domain. All that name server records will be created by default. SOA record is nothing but state of authority record that is also created. So whenever you created any hosted zone, these two records will be by default. So I want to host here a website, right, within the cloud. Now I can try to create own records from my end. So I just want to attach to a web server so that it can try to handle the web application. Okay, let's see. I'll launch a quick web server for mine. Oh, so this server I'm trying to make as a web application server so that anyone who access this website, the request should be redirected to this backend server. Okay, that is the process which we are trying to achieve here. Okay, let's see. It's getting running. It's getting initialized. Let's wait for some more time. So the server is in running state now. And let me connect the server. So I'll just try to deploy a sample, a website, okay? So that I can try to make available. Oh, instance not in public subnet. You see this. So this should be done. So I'm launching other server which should have a proper public IP address. So I'll deploy a sample website here into this server first. Okay. I'm install web deployment package. So if anyone access this, the public IP address, they will get an output, correct? For this website. They should get an output, right? Like a sample website, right? As I've deployed, or else either they can try to access this public DNS. So which is something, the DNS. So do you think, are we able to provide the IP address or the domains or this kind of a domain to the customers? That is not easy to remember. So that's why we are, purchasing this kind of a domains for the websites. Like even the big companies, they'll try to purchase these domains and trying to sell it out to the customers. So what I'm trying to do, I'll try to link this web server to this domain and see how that is going to work out. I'm clicking on create. So I'm attaching this BrightArc website to this public IP address. Okay, let's see. And creating. For that, I'm choosing an ANAME record. ANAME record will try to route IP address to the domain. Okay, I'm clicking and create records. Okay, so what I have to do, I need to have these names of records stored inside this BrightArc, right? Where is my BrightArc? Yep, here. Name servers. So I'll add those records here, okay? What I'll do, yeah. I'll have this here, paste it, save. I have to link this name server records into this dashboard so that it should work, okay? So 212850 put in double three. So I just try to configure these name server records. I think it should be good. Okay. We'll also add here. One four three three. Okay. Let's try to refresh and just wait. Now what happened? If anyone trying to enter this website, they have to get this output. That is the aim. Okay. It just take few minutes to get this record updated, but let's see. It is just taking time. Let's wait. Give it some few seconds for this. In AWS, it should be fast. As per my info, it takes minimum 10 to 15 minutes, but let's wait. Usually it takes minimum 15 minutes around. It takes minimum 15 minutes, it seems. It's fine. So what actually happens, this Route 53 will work. You can see this website when you try to load, you will expect this web page. Rather the IP address, I'm trying to load this with the domain. That's what, the thing that we want to achieve. All right. So it takes time. In the meanwhile, anyone have any queries, you can discuss, you can ask. Anyone? Any queries? It should take some time, but we have to wait anyway. That's fine. Anyone, any queries in the meanwhile? Yeah, Route 53 for specific services which are actually free, and the free tier account. Only for specific duration it is free. If you type any service here, you will get to know. You can see with Route 50, you don't have to pay any upfront fees to commit to the number of queries the service answer your domain. So for only for few, there is some limitation of the incoming request queries that is free, and apart from that, it will be chargeable. You can see this is coming under the pricing components for this as well. Okay, whatever, if you have any queries, you can see the basic pricing here directly over the online for any services. Any queries in the meanwhile? Any crowd queries? There are many more services within the AWS that we'll try to have a practice inside the full-time course batch. I hope within these 5 days, you people got understanding of various services within the cloud, and you just got worth and the benefit out of the session. You got at least an idea. Any feedback or anything, any questions or queries, you can ask in the chat.
Bala, if you're done, means I will wind up the session.
Let's give 5 more minutes for, there are a few queries asked in the chat.
Yeah, sure, no
At
problem. We can take.
5:15, we can end. Okay?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Any queries? You people are able to understand? about how it is being the different types of services, how we are trying to access. Everyone, you can ask in the chats. Any queries? All right, thank you. So thank you everyone for your participation. I hope you have enjoyed the sessions.
Bala, can I take?
Yep, we are done. I'm done. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Bala. Thank you for the wonderful sessions. So, dear faculty members, I'm sharing the attendance link in the chat box, and any more questions you can ask me. So, related to certificates, yes, we are providing certificate for this program, but it will take 7 working days. Okay. And it will come to your register email ID. And regarding that PPTs and all, I will upload by this evening. Okay. So there is no test, Preeti ma'am. Because we have less time to cover the topics, no? So that's why we didn't conducted it. Okay, I hope no more questions. So same from the YouTube as well. Okay. Thank you for joining the sessions. Yeah, and yes, I have an update that from Monday onwards we are starting one program that's a Project Excellence, mastering your minor and major projects with real world case studies. Okay, I'm sharing the registration link of that program. So please register and share with your students as well. And this is starting from Monday. Weekends it is going to happen. And duration will be 30 hours, 2 hours per day. And time will be 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Okay. There is no assessment, Jamil. Sure, Shashikala. We'll update in that. Sure. If you have LMS access, you will receive the material as well. And yeah, if you have any queries regarding LMS, and further, if you have a query regarding certificate you didn't receive anything, you just drop an email to edl@xlr.com. That mail ID I mentioned in the a chat. Okay, please take from here. Same, I mentioned in YouTube chatters also. Please check it. And Bala sir, they are asking your LinkedIn ID. So please, you can share that with them.
Okay, I'll just post in the chat. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bala.
So the DNS website also, it worked fine. Now it is working.
Venkata Subaya, do you have any need a project workshop link? Do you mean that registration link, or else you want to do any projects? Please let me know. So any queries regarding anything, you just drop an email to eden@excello.com. Okay. Yeah, it's time to wind up. Okay. Thank you so much for engaging this session. Yeah, I will share it then. So, yeah, bye bye. Thank you. Thank you, Bala.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.